Yeah, let's check. Let's check Twitch, and then we'll go YouTube. Oh, why didn't Twitch work? Yeah, Twitch. Um, it's probably going by now. No, 4 days ago. Now, Twitch is there. No, that's 4 days ago. YouTube. It's going. Twitch is going to be going in a second. Check. Let's check Twitch. YouTube is going. Now, Twitch is slower. This is weird because Twitch is the primary target for Streamlabs. You have to choose. Oh, I had to reload. Target for Streamlabs. You have to choose. Here we go. There we go. Alrighty then. Why did that go over there? It's weird. Oh yeah, that's because that's what I have. Okay, yeah, I got confused. I set some stuff up, and I made a few videos and having a little. You could blame it on the Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA. I don't usually drink in the week days right now, but a little exception. My wife's taking a trip, so. All right, neither here nor there. So the Discussioneers group. We got a stock background. Obviously, anybody wants to contribute a background. All right, all these little gray boxes here, those are places where you could have a video. Like, look here in the Hello I Am introduction topic, there's one response. See? So I made a response that puts that. If you respond to any of these, and actually I can show you this here. If we go over to where I moved the archive, Barklord replied, oops, so that's not a good example. Oh, because I'm a member view. If you viewed it, it'd be like this. See, Barklord, the videos show up. So those would all get filled. I don't know if it'd make a second row or what. But the idea is we can make video replies. Now I made them a little short. The allowed replies, I didn't even realize that's what I was doing. So anyway, I cover that in this meta topic here, which I'll leave just for people to view there. But the topics that I'm presenting, you'll see the links below in the description here. Two topics: alternatives to war and experts and society. And these are getting pushed down. I put, why is alternatives to war first? I thought that was second. Yeah, I made it in that order. I guess, yeah, that's right. Oh, because of this. Well, see, we're still learning. Both of them, it thinks the latest response. Anyway, we'll leave it like this. This is what I want it like. Right, experts in society. And here's the question. All right, welcome to this topic. It's experts in society. It's louder than me, right? And you have 10 minutes similar in your response comments. And of course, you can respond to responses and so on. So the topic is experts in society. So what is the role of experts in society? How do we utilize expert opinions? By what means in our society do we use those expert opinions? There's a lot of different options. What does trusting in experts mean? And is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Should we trust in experts or should we not? Which brings up what is the definition of trust, and I suspect a definition of trust specifically about experts right? The word trust might have one meaning in terms of trust your family members, trust your
Excuse me.
siblings,
I
trust
forgot I
your
was recording.
um,
Big burp there. Beer burp.
boss, trust your. These all might have different
Bad form,
definitions,
Craig.
different meanings of trust, and trusting in experts would be possibly unique kind of trust. How can we judge who's qualified to count as an expert,
This guy's me.
right?
Can you
And
recognize
for
the
that matter, how
similarity?
many experts does it take to start to get a meta statistical significant
Say statistical one more time,
amount of
motherfucker.
consensus or fidelity to an opinion? How
This
can
is
we
just a
judge
sample or a
systematic
teaser.
bias of
I
experts?
can interrupt
Experts
myself because
form
you have to go to
communities,
Flipgrid
and
to
those
reply.
communities,
You need to
of
watch
course,
it
like any
pure. You don't
community,
even
are
have
going
to
to have
watch
certain
this part. This
biases,
is
which
just to
might even
show
be
you that that's
bigotries or just
happening and give you the
misconceptions
links.
that the
Rant.
rest of society does not want to have.
There's sort of a Max Headroom
That goes to the
quality.
trust
Just
question.
watched a Max Headroom
Obviously, I'm
documentary
taking it as a
by a
given
YouTube guy. It
that
was pretty good.
obviously experts differ with one another. And some people may have had a certain education or things like that that look like the resume of an
Well, that's
expert.
enough. So that one was that. So that Flipgrid topic, yeah, I could just give a sample of it, right? That one is on experts in society. And I think we have a crisis or not. I'm going to answer these myself. I haven't yet. We have to trust in experts, but trust doesn't mean what people think. You don't just blindly trust. It's not like priests, not one expert. You got to be suspicious, and people got their own axes to grind and the money they want to make and their angles. You take a real expert is using statistical analysis on a lot of data and honestly telling you, but they can have systematic biases. So you take a lot of those, a statistical sample of those kind of experts, and you combine them, and so on and so forth. But you can't do it all yourself, so you rely on other people to do that process. And even though it's not perfect, this is how you try to triangulate on a more likely rather than a less likely or randomly likely truth. Um, Okay, so that is one subject, the link below for experts in society. I think if you're a guest, you just click on it and maybe you have to say your name, but tell me. I don't know whether you have to sign up or what because I signed up for this with an email. It was free. And if somebody wants to help with the discussioneers and be able to create topics or whatever, have the admin kind of thing, then just sign up for Flipgrid and tell me, and I'll do it if you're one of the discussioneers that I already know. All right. So experts in society. The other one, this meta one, I'm just not going to go into other than mentioning it now and before, where it's about what we've learned through round one. This is round two. Like I said, I moved those topics. I gave these each 10-minute reply. I think this is, and I presented the topic just as a topic with some bullet points to give some direction of, hey, here's some sub questions, which directs the topic to a certain degree, which is why it'd be nice for other people to do topics. I don't want it to be just totally open because we can always create a bunch of other ones or open it up as a response. So you want to have some bullet points, but I decided not to answer them. But obviously there's an angle to topics in the and I had to decide that in alternatives to war. That's an angle already. But I split it up into, everybody says war is inevitable. When I was a kid, there's probably more people that say no, we could get around it now, but whatever. Most people seem to say that, or maybe it's just okay boomer me. But regardless of the ability to get rid of war, what would you spend the money on? If just by magic you could get rid of war and spend the 700 billion on something else in the U.S.
How low key can war become? Let's say you do believe war is necessary, but it can be this much in the world or down here. What's the lowest low key part? And then is it really inevitable if you get it low key enough? Maybe isn't that reduced to conflict that isn't something you would call war, or maybe even is fundamentally unlike war? We'll just watch a little as a trailer, and maybe I'll skip through too because I don't
Welcome
want
to
to
the
on
topic.
YouTube go
Topic
through
is
these. You go to Flipgrid, you want
alternatives
to hear it.
to war. So this is going to be made of 3 points. One, question points. One, the first point: what would you spend the money on that the world would save by not fighting war? Obviously, in this point, we're not saying that the world would stop
Gummy
fighting war. Just
bears,
what would you spend that money on? And if you don't know how much money your government
dog
spends, like let's say
toys,
you're
and cat toys.
an American citizen like myself,
Hmm.
and you don't
Me
know
too.
that your country spends some what is it, 700? I don't know, 700 billion plus or minus 100 billion, plus probably. Um, how would you spend that money? That's a lot of money. You could do a lot of things. Free college education, probably what, 50, 60, maybe 75 billion a year. That's 10% of the military budget. What would you spend that money on if you could? A way of dealing with, which is very charitable towards the concept of war, with
And then
recalcitrance
I
and
said,
conflict. They obviously, an argument between a married couple, for
and
this
then I
topic,
finish up with this.
alternatives to war.
Well done, me. All right. You get the idea, right? And then I made this meta thing about the stuff we've learned. I mentioned some of it here. All right, you guys. I only need a dozen people to use this for it to be the most absolute success imaginable. Any more than that, will start to be a problem. How do we deal with it? It's not great, but it's sufficient, which is great. So, notwithstanding whatever happens with Flipgrid as a business, Microsoft has bought them owned business. Um, I think this might be a viable discussioneer resource with management. Just a simple video forum, I think, is the minimum. I think this could be good. And to be serious, come over here and do it. We're going to moderate this thing. It's not like the old internet where we were like, hey, just get a thick skin. You win. We're going to moderate the way this works to a certain degree. And we're going to let wild, crazy people like Conference Report say whatever they want. And you're going to be fine with that. And then people that want to be uncooler and not okayness, we're going to deal with that. But we might have to have a committee to meet and say, what do we do? Let's be really soft liberals for a couple tries. And then we'll cramp down. But it'll definitely be not as libertinarian as someone like myself had hoped we could be. So you certainly can consider. I really thank you, Barklord, so much for coming in and just trying it. And I learned a lot just from having one user, right? And you saw a little, I noticed, and you noticed for sure type thing. I consider that a really big success already. So, how many would we even need? And I think for anybody that's old school discussioneer where we already know each other, we can be co-runners of this group because if somebody, we're not all totally well behaved, but if one of us misbehaves, they can just be clicked off the group. Big deal. What's the worst that can happen kind of thing. You know what I mean? So we can share those of us that are already discussioneers, we can jump on moderating this, and I think it like even two people is sufficient, really, is minimal sufficient, but not, not ideal. But, six people is, I think, a complete cycle. Six people that don't all 24/7 every day of every week contribute, but overall can answer and create topics. They create topics. We answer. Six people, that would be a pretty high generating thing. Especially when people can publicly come in and go, ooh, that's important to me, and do it. You need six people that kind of have an interest in the everything, right? That's the discussioneers. Our fault and our positive side are the same, and it's that we're interested in everything. I have opinions on things I've barely thought about. Yes, that part's half-assed. But over time, you end up building up stuff, and it's like, well, I got a little bit of information on it. I know when I have an opinion on something, like, hey, I heard this is the best way to do stamp collecting, but I'm not interested in stamp collecting. I haven't really done it. I know that's half-assed, but maybe good enough to write a paperback. Like if one of my characters is a stamp collector, yeah, I could write a believable motivation from the point of view of the stamp collector of what it was about and why they liked it. Might not be great, might not really satisfy an actual stamp collector, but people could get it. In other words, I have a bare information. I have an interest in everything, but in my particular case, I like to, have pride that I know the difference. I know where I just have plumbing is kind of like this as a job, good enough to write a novel, but not a real understanding, as opposed to other things that I have pretty good, solid understanding of, like the basic Newtonian equations of physics and how math basically works at that, basic level, the fundamental mathematical level, units and stuff. I've got that really solid. So I can speak more as an expert, but I have opinions on a million other things where it's like, hey, I know if I do meet an expert, please tell me more. If I tell you my idea that's half-assed and amateur, it's on purpose so you can correct me and I can get a slightly more expert influenced concept of it. So that's why I was talking about experts in society. I think it's difficult. I get why people are expert, smexpert. But of course, to have civilization, we have to use experts. So let's get specific. How does that work? And alternatives to war. What are they, even if war is impossible to eliminate? There's still hypothetical alternatives. And how low key could you make war, in which case you could enact some of the hypothetical alternatives as actual. In other words, if the cost of war was reduced from 700 billion to 200 billion, what would you do with the 500 billion difference? And can't you just get rid of war? I actually think you can get rid of war and slavery. I know they've been around a long time, but not forever, so maybe some of us can believe that. I'm sorry you think we're crazy. But we could get rid of war and slavery, which are actually directly related to the point of almost being the same thing, just different facets of the same thing. Okay, so I put the links in there. Please flood this with replies, but if it just drips in slowly, I'm willing to keep trying it. And I've realized that I can just reply to my own questions and reply, and that would be sufficient. If Barclay, you keep helping out with your great replies, and we get even 2 or 3 other people, and then I'll just keep making these videos where I watch those, and it'll be like a big iteration of a repeat type thing. And I'll enjoy it, which is the important part. Okay, that we all enjoy it, not just me, but that it's enjoyable. Not just me enjoying it, if that's what you're thinking. I also want other people to enjoy it. Not just myself, if that's what you were thinking, that I didn't really care, that I just want to somehow sustain it enough for my own enjoyment. No, no, no. If that's what you were thinking, I think you missed the fact that I also care that you yourself enjoy it tremendously. It's very important. Very, it truly is. And I'm offended a bit that you would even think that it wasn't. Of course. All right. It's not the greatest, perfectest thing, but I think it'll do. So please try out the links to the Discussioneer and these two topics. And if you are interested in help figuring out how to use this piece of software to the best with our workflow policies, go answer the meta creating topics and stuff one. The two just like subjects, discussioneer topics are experts and society, alternatives to war.